Hey guys, what's happening? Welcome to the channel. Now in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to do a timing belt service, change the timing belt on your Mitsubishi 4D56 engine. Okay, so this is the 2.5 liter turbo diesel engine, most commonly found in the Mitsubishi Challenger or the Mitsubishi Triton / L200 Warrior, depending on where you are in the world. Now, okay, so the first thing you want to do before you do any work under the bonnet of your car is disconnect the battery, okay? So we're going to disconnect the negative terminal here. They're always just around about a 10 mil size socket. If you're disconnecting the positive and you're removing the battery altogether, remove the negative first, then remove the positive, then take the battery out. When you put it back in, put the positive back on, and then the negative. By removing only the negative, I've already undone that, you can see there is no risk of spark when you're attaching it back, but because the positive does create a live circuit, when you apply the positive again at the end, you do have a risk of spark and obviously a risk of fire. So only disconnect the negative terminal. All right, from there, what we're going to do is move underneath the car, and we're going to remove this bash plate here so we can get to the bottom of the radiator to remove the bottom radiator hose. So very easy to remove bash plate. We just have 4 bolts each corner, and they are 12 mil. All right, so in order to drain the coolant, we have a coolant drain on the radiator, and it's just a little white tab there, as you can see, right next to the coolant draining out. Just unscrew that and let the coolant drain out, and you'll be able to remove your bottom radiator hose, the top radiator hose, and remove everything to take the radiator out. While that's draining out down below, we can make some space up here by removing the top radiator hose. Just a clip there, squeeze, and a clip here, squeeze and pull back. And we're also going to remove this cold air intake, just another 12 mil bolt down there, and then this is going to slide off the air box. It's going to give us more space to then take off the radiator shroud. Okay, so I thought I'd show you guys this once it was out. Super easy to take this out, but it has to be taken out in order. So you've got 4 bolts on each corner of the fan shroud. They need to be removed. And then you have on the radiator down here 2 12 mils on each side, and then the radiator sits in its holes there and it stays in the engine bay. And we need to remove the attachment for the bottom radiator hose as well to get that out. So you take that out, slide the radiator out between the frame and the fan shroud, and then just lift the fan shroud out. Gives us a lot more space to work in the engine bay, so we can start getting this out, and then to all the belts behind here as well. Okay, so again, 4 bolts to remove the fan, giving us a lot more space. So you can see the 4 bolt holes that went on there. All right, next step, let's go. So in order to get this part of the wiring loom out of the way, you see these clips here, and they have like a depress. So if we get the long nose on there, depress, there we go, like so, and then we can remove that. So we're going to do that all along here. To get this, just move it out of the way so we can remove the cover for the camshaft pulley, and then the lower cover down here, and then some serpentine bolts. All right guys, so we're almost ready to take off this bottom pulley. This cover's undone, but there is a bolt right underneath this pulley that you need to get this pulley off in order to take this off. Now of course that we have, this is the crankshaft pulley. We need to turn that to set it to top dead center before we take all the drive belts off. But in order to take this off, we have to undo this nut. So the easiest way to undo this nut, if you don't have a tool, the specific tool, is put on a, I'll show you, 22 mil down in here against big breaker bar, so it's rest on the floor. Just give the engine a quick turn, don't let it fire up, just a little quick, like half a second, and it'll crack that nut, and then you can just undo and then remove this. Okay, so a few timing marks that we need to make sure of. Top one here, you can see the pink line dashed in there, lines up with the backing plate. And we have another one, let's see if I can grab that on the camera for you guys, there. You can see that that groove here lines up with the groove back there on the case behind. And then this on the main crank pulley is the groove there that lines up with the casing for top dead center, and you can see that there, top dead center. So once you've got all that lined up, and I turned it by just turning the top there with my large breaker bar, we can start removing the tensioners. So I'm going to start removing the tensioners, and when I've started doing that, I'm going to show you guys which ones to remove first and how to do that. Alright guys, so 2 belts on this. Now we're taking off what they call belt A, which is the top belt first attached to the camshaft, and this belt comes down and its tensioner is here, okay? But this is what the actual tensioner looks like. Now, kind of reminds me of like a grenade. This bolts on, and then what we do is we pull, once everything's in, lined up, the new belt is on properly, we pull this out, and then that releases the clip, the spring inside there, which applies tension onto here, there, to push the belt up. So I've finished, I've just cracked that off, so I can undo this now, get that off, and then show you guys what the old one looks like. And there you go. That's the old one. There, with the spring poking out of it, and it's pretty strong. So yeah, you don't want to pull that out before you've actually fitted the new one. And one last piece to finally get the belt out is the crank positioning sensor. So it is just a 10 mil bolt that sits in there, just where my index finger is. And then you can just push that in slightly, and once you've done that, you'll be able to maneuver that belt out. Got to put the camera down though, guys, to get it out. Right on. So last tensioner is the good old conventional spring style. It just has a Allen bolt in there to undo, and it'll just pop off, and then you can just slide that belt off, and then this tensioner along with it will come out, and you should get a new one of these in your timing belt kit as well, guys. Alright, so putting the first belt on now, and we need to make sure that obviously this is not going to move, and to be quite honest with you, it's not going to move because of the compression of the engine that's currently under. And then this one here, remember we have that timing mark on this pulley here, and the timing mark down here on this pulley here. So once we've pieced the belt on, it's a little bit fiddly to get on, and put the new tensioner pulley in, and then we can get the spring, and remember we have to get the spring on this side and then down there on the other side of that as well. And you can do that by just sliding it on loose and pulling it across, and then as you tighten this bolt, that'll pull the tensioner spring all the way back down and tighten all the tension after we've tightened up the pulley itself through this bolt and the one down there. So let's get that done. Alrighto, so that's all done now, and you can see that's done up, and the belt itself has a good amount of tension on it. And then we put this plate back on, and it has the groove on it there, so you notice that it can only go on one way, so that sits on there like so. And then once that's slid on, what you can do is you can get your other timing belt. I'm going to give this a whirl, and I'm going to sit that in there. I'm probably going to need both hands to do this though, so I don't have to slide the belt past the crank positioning sensor again. So I'm going to sit that in there, and then I'm just going to slide this pulley on, doink, to lock it in place. Okay, sorry about the sun, guys. So once we've pieced that belt on, it comes down here, comes up over this pulley, and then round the back of this gear, and this gear is marked as well, so when you put that on, you need to make sure this one doesn't move, so it can be fiddly. It comes up over the top of the cam gear, all the way back round, and it traces back around the backside of this pulley, so almost like the teeth are kind of meeting each other down here, but they're not actually touching, because then we've got this pulley here as well to piece everything in. Right on. So once you're satisfied that everything's in line, this large belt here, the main timing belt, can be a real pain. Quite common for it to be one tooth out, and if it's one tooth out, you're not going to be able to get your tensioner in, and you'll know that it's one tooth out because once you put that in, you won't be able to put this in. So if you do have it as one tooth out, you really just kind of got to fiddle with it and make sure that you get the belt all sitting right, and then once you apply this, you can tighten all this up. Make sure that you're happy, your timing marks are still as they should be. Yeah boy, happy with that. All that's done in, that's done up there. Then we just pull the pin here, and that spring will release. Keep tension on that, and then we're good to go. So the rest is the complete reverse of everything else. So we've got to put in the automatic tensioner for the serpentine belt, and then all the other auxiliary belts down here. Place the radiator back in, and then turn everything back on and see how we did. So that's a big job. I'm gonna get stuck into piecing everything back together. I'm not gonna video me piecing everything back together because it took me about 4 hours to video what I needed to video for you, and do everything, fiddle around with the belt, having it one tooth out and all that kind of stuff as well. So I'm gonna get cracking to get that done, and I'll check back with you guys when I turn it on to make sure everything still works. All right guys, so I told you I would show you this. Remember, this is the tensioner for the drive belt, connects down to the alternator down there, and it does have a little hole in it here, okay, because it's an auto tensioner. So what we need to do is push on that there like so, give it a lot of force, and that'll pull the spring inside to release it, so we can then slide a bolt on in there, nip it up, and we're good to go. All right, one thing I'm always going to do on this channel is everything I do, show you guys how to do. I am going to make sure it still works after. There we go. Guys, that's it. If you did like today's video, please like and subscribe down below. Leave a comment and leave me a suggestion on something you would like to see here on the DIY Car Guy.